Hello and welcome to Cyberside Chats. My name is Matt Durrin. I'm the Director of Training and Research for LMG Security, and I have a special guest with me today. And I would love you to introduce yourself.
My name is Todd Stewart, and I'm brand new to LMG Security, and I am thrilled to be here. And I'm happy to get the opportunity to be a part of this. So I hope you find value in what we're going to talk about today.
Todd, we are super excited you're here for this conversation. The discussion we're going to have today is about cybersecurity training and how we actually present information out to people when we do our trainings.
Yep.
And a lot of that comes down to, again, how we present information. And what we like to talk about here is like the power of why, basically.
Exactly.
When we are talking to people about cybersecurity in general, this can be a very dry topic. And it's something that is not necessarily something people find exciting. And one of the questions I love to ask, like right at the very beginnings of my trainings, are like, how many of you in the room are really just excited when you hear the word cybersecurity? And I barely ever get a hand.
Right, right.
And it's because, again, it can be kind of a like formidable topic for people.
Absolutely.
So what we want to talk about here is how we actually communicate. And Todd, you're an experienced trainer at this point. You have gone through multiple seminars, you've gone through webinars, you've gone through tabletops. You have background in this, so I just want to get into the context of it. So, like, when we talk about how you go about your approach to teaching a cybersecurity topic, I mean, what is your background on that? Like, what do you do?
When I look at this topic for people, one of the things that I try to ensure is that I'm providing value in the communication, especially during Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I mean, this is the opportunity for us to go out and talk to people, get with them, and help them understand that the value of what they're learning here at work can also help protect them at home.
Yes.
Give them opportunities to try and understand things. It's really important that when you're engaging somebody and talking to them about cybersecurity, you don't make it all technical. You make it, what's in it for them? The with them. What's in it for me?
Right.
Help them understand that.
No, I love that, and that comes down to our basic topic here. I mean, that's the context behind why we're doing these exercises. We have things like, the introduction of like jargon into a cybersecurity conversation, and like, don't get me wrong, if I start spouting out terms like IDS, IPS, EDR, or something like that, I mean, you're probably going to understand what that means, but the average person probably won't. And that's normal. I mean, that's not something we're expecting them to really understand when they are getting into this conversation. So what I love to talk about here is how we get into like the storytelling aspect of cybersecurity. So that's how I go about it. I know that's how you go about it too. I mean, can you give me some background on how you would approach that?
You know, when I approach that, I don't approach it with statistics. Statistics are really an arcane thing for somebody to understand.
Yeah, huge point. Yeah.
So, if you start a talk with, 90% of breaches start with a phishing email. Well, yeah, statistically that's true.
I mean, that's true, but
true,
like, yeah.
But it's probably a little more impactful if you say something along the lines, one click can impact 10,000 fellow employees.
Right, yeah.
It really drives it a little more home emotionally versus just the statistic overwhelming fact.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. And I mean, we run into that with our presentations as well. I mean, when we start off with, 75% of ransomware attacks occur, at night or over the weekend. Right. That's impactful for someone who is in security, but for the normal person, that doesn't really draw that much gravity to it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Very much agreed.
So instead, we have to point out that, a lot of times attackers are going after you when you're not paying attention.
Right.
And if we just rephrase the story a little bit that way,
right,
it seems to get a lot more of a positive result back at that point in time. Yeah.
Absolutely. When I talk about storytelling, I try to frame things as well so that it helps people understand. So like when passwords, we throw a laptop to somebody or a teenager and say, create a password for this. But we don't ever take the time to help them understand what a good password is, why you need to create a good password. To me, it's akin to going to a parking lot and saying, you don't throw your keys to your teenager and say, drive down and grab me some milk. You probably take them to the parking lot, put the foot on the brake, put your seatbelt on, put the key in the ignition. You walk them through steps. And when we're trying to create passwords, you take that approach of breaking it down into steps and the whys. It really is more impactful and provides value to the person.
No, absolutely. And I mean, when we talk about passwords in general, I mean, those are one of and we talk about this in our webinars and our seminars, like passwords are one of the biggest security risks that we have out there right now. And it's because we as humans are just bad with passwords.
Horrible.
It's a thing. Our brains are not designed to remember long, complex strings of like letters, numbers, symbols, squirrel noises, or whatever else goes into a normal password. But when we talk about it with people, I mean, what we want to get across to them is like there is an importance in having something like a unique and strong password.
Absolutely.
But how do we tell that story? And the way that I like to describe it is, I mean, when we look at like the dark web as an example, I mean, there's 25.5 billion sets of credentials on the dark web right now. So if you're coming up with a password that has the word password in it as the example or something like that, it's likely already been stolen. Yeah, I mean, you were setting yourself up for failure at that point. One of my favorite examples is the XKCD comic where they talk about setting up a passphrase instead of a password. So correct horse battery staple was what they put in there. And it's kind of funny because when we look at like the breach password databases we have here at LMG, correct horse battery staple is a very commonly occurring password that we excuse me, that we actually see in that deck. But by telling that story and by letting them know that there's a way you can set up a passphrase or a password, you know, a song lyric that you like, or a poem that you like, or you know, a series of things on your desk, that resonates with people.
Absolutely.
Because that now they're not thinking about it as like this weird, like, you know, code they have to put in to access their system. They're looking at it more as a, you know, a personal item that they can have. And that tends to be pretty impactful. I tend to like that one.
You know, if you could double that with something that's experiential as well. So we used to go to our events and we would have a laptop with a local password checker.
Yeah.
Didn't go out and, you know, steal anybody's passwords. But combining that message with somebody putting in their own password and seeing how quickly it can get cracked was really impactful. Again, there is value in the experience and there's value in the communication. Combined with that, you have somebody that you've made a difference for.
I love your approach to that, Todd. I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's jump forward into some of the other issues that we run into when we're training for cybersecurity. So you mentioned phishing earlier, you know, 90% of intrusions start with a phishing email or something like that. And telling someone a stat like that is, I guess, impactful to a point. But if we can make a better story around that, if we can get them to understand why, you know, I mean, attackers will phish us, you know, thousands of times per day. They only need to be right one of the times. We have to be right 100% of the time. So getting people to understand like what to look for in a phishing email or how to respond when they get a phishing email. I mean, something like that becomes a really important part of a cybersecurity training protocol. And I mean, a lot of us do know before, and we have our monthly cybersecurity trainings and things like that. But we haven't really seen a huge impact on blocking those phishing emails because of it. So, I mean, what would your approach be to get people to, I guess, just pay a little bit more attention to their email in general when we talk about phishing?
You know, that's always a struggle because we get busy.
Right.
And bad guys know that.
Yeah.
And, you know, multitasking is not your friend. It is your enemy.
It absolutely is.
You're just subdividing your own attention. So, you know, one of the things I try in my own practice, you know, because I have to practice what I preach, is to be mindful of what I'm doing. When I get an email and it's speaking specifically about something that's trying to drive me emotionally, that's usually a trigger for me that I need to take a moment and really look at this.
Yeah.
Is this something that I asked for, or is this something that somebody is trying to get from me? And, you know, taking that time, and it's hard. It is hard to interrupt yourself in that set.
It really is,
But if you can get into kind of a flow, it becomes a habit after a while if you just are consistent trying to do that. But trying to be as mindful as you can with your email interactions, your SMS interactions, your phone interactions, because it carries across.
Oh, yeah, no, it's not just email.
It's not just email.
No, it's every communication platform that you utilize.
Yeah.
No, I love that. So when we're talking about phishing emails, and you and I talked about this the other day. I mean, like, I almost got caught with one like pretty recently, and it's because I was away. I was teaching at a foreign school. I was expecting a package to be delivered for me, and the package was delayed. And somehow, surreptitiously, I ended up getting a phishing email in my actual inbox, like my work inbox, that said your package has been delayed. Click here to check the status. And when I looked at it, I mean, I was in a hurry. I was, stressed out at that point. And I mean, it clicked like, yes, I should click here to look at it. And I almost did. Yeah. And the thing that stopped me was, like, I had this realization right before I hit the mouse button that the package I was getting was coming from UPS, and the email I got said it was from FedEx. Yep. But it was like it was a split second between something like clicking on a phishing email and stopping it from becoming a problem in the first place. Which is funny because again, I'm a security professional. I do this for a living. I should be able to spot these things. Yeah. But when you're in a hurry, when you have that sense of urgency that we see in a lot of the phishing emails, I mean, it can really make a difference as to how you respond to them.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. Handling emails is tricky. One of the things that's changed my life handling emails is actually my password manager, because I'll go to the authoritative source within my password manager to look for something versus following that link within the email.
And that's the smart way to do it. Like if there's a delayed tracking number or something like that, like go to the FedEx website.
Yeah, exactly.
Go to the UPS website. Don't click the email. Just like do it the way you would normally do it. Yeah. I love this. Oh, okay. So moving forward on the topic, I think one of the things that we need to address here is how we actually approach, like how we get points across to people when we talk about security. And you mentioned before, like if we start off with statistics or something like that, I mean, we lose the crowd. I mean, I'm sure a lot of the people here have been to a college level lecture before where the professor gets up in front of you and they put up a PowerPoint and then they just start like reading word for word what's on the PowerPoint. And I mean, I can tell you from experience that for me, like I am going to tune out immediately.
Absolutely.
So how do we establish a narrative when it comes to these? I mean, how do we handle storytelling when it comes to these kind of training exercises?
That's a really good question. Creating value and using the storytelling method can be challenging because this is such a different thought. One of the things I found that I try to help bridge the gap is helping put cyber ideas into physical comparisons, physical, something people can relate to, because people can't relate to the binary zeros and ones because it's just too out there.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
But if you can help people understand that you want to protect your virtual world as much as your physical world, it kind of helps bridge the gap if you can draw those comparisons. It is a challenge in terms of storytelling, but if you can find the right triggers and the right way to draw those comparisons, it draws people in. And it helps make people ask questions.
I think that's the big thing, though. Like we want to get people's attention.
Yes.
We want them to be interested in the story we're telling. We want them to take in kind of the key values of whatever it is we're getting across, and we want them to be curious.
Yes.
I mean, I think that comes into a huge portion of it. If we can get them to be, I guess, engaged in the story that we're telling, I mean, that goes miles in terms of getting people to actually pay attention to something. And the problem that I have, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well, is like when we get into a room that has like a mixed group. So I've got some people who are specifically like SecOps and IT security and incident response team. But I also have people who are human resource and finance and other areas like that. It's difficult to get a narrative across to all of them simultaneously that will be impactful. And therein lies the challenge.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, like for you, how would you approach something like that?
I mean, I would try to, boy, that's hard. You got to read the room. You definitely have to read the room.
I know I'm challenging you here, but like I'd love to hear it.
But hopefully you have an understanding of who your audience is. And if there is a theme around the talk, you may be able to narrow down that theme into a kind of a generalized messaging. One of my favorite, and even though you may not reach each person at their level, one of my favorite experiences in doing these things and presenting with people is at the end of the presentation when people come and talk to you, because they may have been too embarrassed to ask a question outright.
Sure, yeah.
But that tells me that they did reach, the message did get to them.
Yeah, no, so they understood what you were saying, yeah.
They just wanted to hear it in a different way.
Sure.
And, on stage it's hard to do for 400 people.
Well, yeah.
But after that, when people are coming up and trying to help themselves, not me, help themselves understand that messaging so that they got something out of it, is really a great experience.
No, I love the feeling too, and we get that at conferences and presentations and other events like that,
right?
Where you have that personal interaction where you can tell somebody like and again I think you put it very well, like they may have felt stupid asking the question or something like that, and we really want to stress to people, especially when we're doing one-on-one exercises, that like none of the questions they have are stupid.
No.
Like all of this, if you have a question, if you're wondering about the answer to a topic, like ask.
Yes.
Because for the most part, I guess I would say, whoever's instructing or facilitating or whatever is going to be happy to explain that.
Of course.
And that may benefit someone else in the room who is having that same level of potentially misunderstanding or confusion about some kind of topic.
Yep.
I mean, it's not an uncommon thing when we get into the industry.
Not at all.
So I guess what we need to talk about here is why this matters. Like why are we talking about this in the first place? And the reason that we bring this up and that we decided we wanted this to be the topic for this podcast is it's because it affects all elements of the entire industry. Like for a salesperson, as an example, having an effective presentation that illustrates the risk behind cybersecurity, that showcases that your cyber risk is a business risk, is a huge thing. I mean, if you go in front of a board of directors or something like that and you're trying to sell them a product or a service, and all you do is drop out a bunch of industry acronyms and statistics, they're going to listen to you for a little while anyway, but like you're going to walk out of the room and nothing's going to happen. So it becomes really important to get across, again, that narrative, the why. Why is this so important to them? The other thing we want to look at is for trainings. Understanding why your employees should care about this. And that becomes a big thing for people. When we look at a large organization as an example, I mean, I'm certain that a lot of people, and I've seen this in my trainings, like a lot of people feel like they're not the target. They're not the one who is going to be the linchpin if someone gets hacked or something like that. So how would you, again, Todd, how would you go about like illustrating to people that everyone in the organization is really a valuable piece of that puzzle when it comes to maintaining security?
There's that classic saying, security is everybody's responsibility.
Yeah.
I like to use the term more shared. It's more of a shared responsibility across the organization, so that we share resources, we share workspaces, we share time together as employees. I try to put it in the frame that this is something that is vital to the culture of the organization. Because if we can protect the culture, we can protect the organization.
Sure.
And that really helps some people buy into it. There's always the outliers. There's always the people that are like, oh, I don't need to worry about this.
Yeah.
But over time, I've found that with the right communication, the right patience, and the right triggers, you can actually get them on board too. And it is an incremental thing. It's not going to happen all at once. You're going to roll this out to the organization. You're going to have the early buy. It's just the bell curve. You're going to have the early buyers and everybody's in. But you can do it. It can be done. I worked in an organization where we dropped our phishing rate to well with under 2 to 5% within the industry.
Which is very impressive, by the way.
Thank you. And it started at an astronomical number. But it took time, and it took patience, and it took helping people understand the value of what they're learning. And I firmly believe that communication in cybersecurity at all levels of cybersecurity is a layer 8 control. And that's not a new thought.
No,
a lot of people
not at
use
all.
that.
We make that joke fairly frequently, yes, but yeah.
But I really think that it's that important. Because security at its core is a human challenge, and we want to do everything we can to approach it that way.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into our key takeaways here, because I mean we want people to understand exactly, again, why we're talking about this today.
Yeah.
And the very first thing that we want to talk about, is that we want to lead with the why.
Yes.
So when we train people on cybersecurity, when we train people in maintaining their own personal security at that point in time, I mean, not just business but at home too, we want them to understand exactly why it's important, and the way that we go about that by giving them concrete examples of how things can go wrong. If someone is worried about clicking on a phishing email, explaining to them like what happens if they click on that phishing email.
Sure.
That all matters when we talk about it. The next thing we want to do is basically turn this into a narrative. Excuse me. You mentioned before that if we just throw out stats or the latest report with bar graphs and things like that, yeah, it's cool, but people don't necessarily resonate with that. So if we can give them a narrative, if we can tell them again a story about something that happened to obviously someone else, but something that relates to them, that can go a long way in terms of establishing why they should pay attention to this in the first place. Yeah. So the next one we want to talk about is the so what test. So I want to throw that one over to you. So what do we mean by like so what?
As you're communicating, or even as you're developing presentations, as you're planning something, ask yourself at each point, what should the audience be getting out of this? What is what's the with them? What's in it for me?
When I look at it, like, so what?
So what?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So if you take a moment and really try to plan for that, and try to build in the messaging for that, it gives the audience the opportunity to weigh the value of what you're sharing with them.
Sure.
And hopefully it falls on the side of something really good for you.
Ideally, yes.
Ideally, yes.
The next thing we want to talk about is like how you approach the actual stories behind it. So I have been told by multiple different organizations when I come in to teach like a board of directors training or something like that, the main narrative that I'll be given ahead of time is like scare the hell out of them.
Oh.
And like, don't get me wrong, I can. Like we can do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's necessarily effective. Right. I think that the better way to go about that is like, yes, we do need to illustrate like the negative things that can happen with a lapse in cybersecurity. There is an element of fear there, and that needs to be addressed. But for the most part, we really need to focus on this more as an educational narrative. Like, it's not just that everything's all bad. We're not doom and gloom all the time.
Right.
Like, we will give you the tips to protect yourself. We will teach you how to identify things like a phishing email, as an example. And if we don't do that correctly, then we end up just basically being it kind of turns into a horror movie at that point, which is not what that's not what we want.
FUD doesn't sell.
No, exactly. Yeah.
But it never sells.
I mean, it does on X when you're buying cryptocurrency, but that's
That's true.
That's about the only one.
That's a good
The next part, though, and we talked about this a little bit. I mean, mixed communication methods, and I want to throw this one over to you because, like, I've opined on this for countless hours at this point. But when we're talking to like a mixed group, if you have the CISO and the CEO and the security team and human resources all in the same room, I mean, how do you why is it important that we narrate to the group at that point?
Well, you want a group understanding, obviously,
right?
Because it is a group. Again, it's a shared responsibility. It's back to that group effort thing. If you know your audience well enough, and you have the CISOs, and you have the tech, and you have HR, you can start technically with what CISO is like. Bottom line up front, this is about XXX.
Right. Yeah. And this is money that we're talking about. Yeah.
Exactly. And then you can segue into the specifics of the rest of the audience. Now, that really make sure you understand who you're speaking to in the group.
Sure.
But you can divide it up and ensure that there are transitions between each that help people say, okay, maybe not consciously, but, oh, I understand this section. I understand this section.
Right.
This section's for me.
No, I had feedback from a tabletop I did recently where one of the people that was there said, like, all of the individual departments were focused on at one point or another, but we were able to kind of narrate the connection between them.
That's awesome.
And they felt like that was a great addition to the exercise, which was incredible. And I think it was really helpful, like that we were able to stitch them all together and let them know that, like, this is not a just a SecOps problem or just a CISO problem.
Right.
This is everyone's responsibility.
Right.
And I mean, it's not necessarily difficult for us to defend against cyber attacks or something like that. It just involves the the participation from basically everyone that you're around and understanding why that we need to do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about here, and this is our final takeaway. I know we're hitting the end of our limit here, but thanks for sticking around, guys. But we need to remember that that communication by itself in your organization is a security control. Yeah. Whether it is cybersecurity training, whether it is general employment training, whether it is anything else, being able to effectively communicate to your staff, your coworkers, your group at that point becomes a huge element of just maintaining a safe environment. Absolutely. And it's because if you can't communicate effectively, then people either don't pay attention, don't understand, or will make mistakes based on the fact that you just couldn't get that information out to them. And when I say you, don't get me wrong, I'm not pointing out like a single person here or anything like that. This is not like the the Equifax hack where they blamed the entire thing on one guy who forgot to patch a system or something like that. Right. This is an organizational thing. We want to make sure that those soft skills, the ability to effectively communicate back and forth, are available to everyone, and it makes sense from both a business, a fiscal, and a security perspective to invest in the time to maintain that kind of communication. And I'll leave it to you for thoughts you have on this. But.
I had a boss, and she was fantastic, and she never said soft skills. She called them power skills, which is exactly what they are. Mm-hmm. And I would encourage people that have challenges with communication across your organization, take some time to learn about organizational change management. Like ProSize AdCar, not that I work for them, but I like their methodology, the AdCar methodology.
Nice name drop there, but
but because a lot of times when security initiatives are put out there, they're just put out there, and there's no real explanation of the why.
Sure, yeah.
So we're getting back to the why.
Yeah, back to the why.
So if you can create the awareness of something coming, the desire, you can give them the ability to understand it, the knowledge about it, and reinforce that message. It really becomes a powerful way to communicate across your organization, particularly in cybersecurity.
Oh, God, great explanation. Thank you so much, Todd. Thanks. All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap up. Again, my name is Matt Durrin. I am the Director of Training and Research here at LMG Security, and you are?
I am Todd Stewart, brand new Senior Cybersecurity Consultant here at
Brand new Senior Cybersecurity Consultant. I love it.
At LMG Security.
Make sure to check out the rest of the podcast we have available. We'll be doing this live every month. And thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.